Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Volquest podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Austin Price and Rob Lewis. A lot of recruiting talk here on a Tuesday morning because coming off one of the biggest recruiting weekends of the calendar year, 16 official visitors have come and gone from Rocky Top this past weekend, and we'll go ahead and dive in with a headliner, Austin Price. Let's start at the top. The number one wide receiver in the country in Tristan Keys. Tennessee's been in this one for a long time. Of course, he's an LSU commit. This one's going to go on until the very end. But how did Tennessee fare with the number one wide receiver in the land?
I thought Tennessee did a really nice job. I think they got a ton of momentum coming out of the weekend. And, I won't say that the flip is imminent, but I think that the Vols have done enough to where, like, if I'm LSU, I'm legitimately worried. Miami's in play there as well. But Tristan Keys always had Tennessee out in front, even before he picked LSU. And then LSU did, a nice job of getting him in the boat there a couple months ago. But Tennessee's never kind of went away. And Kelsey Pope's constantly been there, just chipping away. And then his relationship with Faison Brandon, I think, really resonates for the Hattiesburg, Mississippi native. So it's not a lock that he's flipping, but I think Tennessee's moved the needle enough now where I think LSU should be legitimately concerned about holding on to a big-time player in their class.
You mentioned Kelsey Pope continually being there. I mean, what else about Tennessee is super appealing for Tristan? What does he like about his fit in the Tennessee offense, and if he were to sign with Tennessee?
Fit in the offense, relationships, not only with Pope, but like I mentioned, Faison Brandon, being the guy. And, again, Tennessee did a tremendous job for the last 2 years of recruiting Tristan Keys. They were on him the same time they were on Tyreek King. And, King committed early. Keys felt like he was headed that way before LSU, flipped the momentum a few months ago. But Tennessee's momentum never really went away. LSU just kind of got a little bit more momentum. And Tennessee's just quietly went to work and stayed consistent and persistent with him, and I think it's resonated. So, we'll see. I think that he's going to, finish these visits out and start trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do for the long term. But whether he flips or not, LSU or Tennessee or whoever is going to have to sweat that one out until December and he signs.
Yeah, where's he going next weekend?
That I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, so where has he been this month? I mean, obviously LSU committee was here. You mentioned Miami's in play.
Miami's got the most momentum there, besides Tennessee. And so, he signed that Adidas deal. A lot of people wondered, is that a precursor to Tennessee? Well, Tennessee's not an Adidas school. I think that was just a deal got done by his agent. And to my knowledge, that deal runs out at the end of this year. So, I don't think it locks him into anything because, he may not be with an Adidas school, a year from now. So for Tristan Keys, it's about, trying to find the right fit, his relationships. Mom's super comfortable in Knoxville, really likes Tennessee. I'm telling you, if I were LSU, I think I'd be legitimately concerned about holding on to Tristan Keys. And then you can't forget about the in-state school, especially. I mean, Mississippi State, no, but Ole Miss. I mean, they did it a year ago with Caleb Cunningham. They kind of let him commit to Alabama, laid in the weeds, and then did what it took to get him in the end. Do they do something similar with Keys in this class? Now, Cunningham a lot closer to Oxford than Keys. Keys is a little further south.
Another headliner for the weekend, of course, you had Faison Brandon, who we'll get into here in a moment, Tennessee's quarterback commit, who was really acting as a recruiter this past weekend. We mentioned Tristan Keys, but a position Tennessee recruits very well and has for quite some time in the edge position, that Leo spot. And Tristan Givens was on campus, a top 100 player on 3 industry rankings and all that. Austin, how did Tennessee fare with Tristan Givens this weekend overall?
They did a nice job. He still has to visit Texas A&M, and that's Tennessee's biggest competition for Givens. And so anytime you have the other top school getting the last visit, there is cause for pause. And we'll see. I think he leaves the weekend feeling really good about where Tennessee's at. I think Tennessee's got a legitimate shot at him. But what's the visit to A&M look like a week from now? What does he leave here go down there and then feel all the good vibes down there, and they flipped the momentum back because they were the team to beat. About a month ago, and so it's kind of like quietly been a Tennessee A&M battle for a while. A&M felt like they just kind of nudged ahead barely. I think this weekend may have flipped that back around, but he still has the visit to College Station, and that's something you have to worry about if you're Coach Chop and you're the defensive coaches, which is why they hope to bring in Drake Wynn next weekend, which is why they're bringing in Hezekiah Harris next weekend, which is why they're in on Joel Wyatt. They're wanting multiple Leos in this class, and Gibbons would obviously be one of the top ones they could go get, but not all the eggs are in one basket.
Yeah, I mean, that's a position, Rob, that Tennessee's recruited so well since Josh Heupel and Rodney Garner and Tim Banks has been here. James Pierce, Joshua Joseph, going back, and there's been other ones, Caleb Herring, Jordan Ross. I mean, that spot, whether it's a true Leo really or the traditional defensive end, they've done a great job of recruiting. And kind of like Austin was saying, it's not just you're going all in for one or two guys. You're bringing in 5 or 6, already landed 2, and we'll get to C.J. Edwards, who is on his official visit here in a moment. But that's a spot Tennessee's done a really good – they do a good job of evaluating that spot in the high school ranks and always have.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's an easy sell not only because of the success you see, James Pierce going in the first round, but also you throw in the tape and you see how many snaps or, so many different guys are getting. And I think, if you're going to recruit, like AP said, if you're not going to put all your eggs in one basket and recruit multiple dudes, I think that's really important that you can show them, hey, you're going to get 20, 25 snaps a game. We're going to play all you guys. And, I think that's really appealing. And Tennessee has been really successful at that the last couple of years in the front seven. So I think that makes it, an easy sell a successful sell for kids in the recruiting process.
Let's flip back to the offensive side of the football, and Tristan Keys is obviously very much on the attention, on the mind of Faison Brandon this weekend. But another guy that Faison was trying to help out a little bit and trying to recruit was Legend Bay, an athlete from the state of Texas, wide receiver, running back. Even said he can throw the football a little bit.
Quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, like, what did Tennessee do with him this weekend? And what do they? If he were to come to Tennessee, kind of what's his fit in this offense?
Well, he would be a slot. He's a thick kid. He's probably 5'10"ish. He's not like he's Pick Howard as far as like height. I mean, he's not 6'3", but he's not tiny either. And again, he's thick. He's really twitchy. Tennessee's got a ton of momentum coming out of this one, and he's set to announce his decision late this month. So. Tennessee's just got to continue to keep the momentum between now and decision day, but they leave the weekend feeling really good about where things stand as they continue to trend hard there for Legend Bay, which is a fantastic name. It's like Michael Bay had a kid, the guy who produced Transformers, and then decided he was going to take like a cool Transformers name and give it to his kid. Like it's a fantastic name, Legend Bay.
That's a pretty good name. Another weapon Tennessee potentially could have in this offense. Back to defense, De'Aaron Albert. It looks like Tennessee, he leaves the weekend saying that Tennessee's kind of the team to beat for himself, right?
Yeah, and he's going to visit Mississippi State this coming weekend, Eric, and they're the team that, potentially could flip things around. He's a Mississippi kid. How much did they decide to go all in on him on NIL? Will be interesting to see. And so, I mean, good-looking kid. I mean, defensive tackle. I think he wants to get coached hard. I think he meshes well with Rodney Garner. And, again, Tennessee had a really nice weekend on the whole. I mean, how many of them get to the finish line in the boat? I don't know because it's recruiting and things can change on a dime. But you left the weekend feeling like there's a bunch of the kids that visited this weekend that could end up at Tennessee.
Another one of those guys, linebacker T.J. White. I think he was quoted in your article that you wrote saying Tennessee made a massive move this weekend, and another linebacker that Tennessee likes. It's a top 100 player, a lot of skill set. Another position, Rob, where Tennessee recruits very, very well, the edge, the linebacker position too. But it sounds like T.J. White was another one of those guys that Tennessee kind of moved the needle with. Yeah,
I mean, just listening to him talk, I mean, he was, and not just him, but and AP's in the weeds with it and talks to these kids a lot more. But all hands on deck this weekend. And listening to how these guys were exited, and TJ White was certainly one of them. Just talking about how genuine, the staff was, and what, really appealed to TJ, and what, I think appeals to a lot of kids anytime they're going to visit is, the feedback they get from the players. And I know, he was one that, was like, it's genuine here. The players, are, feel like Heupel has their back and are willing to lay down for him. So, and he wasn't the only guy, but he was the one that was pretty vociferous about, how much that meant to him, what, what he heard about from the guys, and just how the coaches were down to earth with him.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee has done a good job the last couple of years of remaking the linebacker room. Obviously, you had the Jadens last year, and then, the kid, from over there in Middle Tennessee. TJ's a big, thick linebacker. He's 6'2"-ish, and about 235 pounds already, which is a great sign, because then all of a sudden you can kind of, have to ask him to put on a bunch of weight, and you just got to, move the weight around and transform the weight. And, a good-looking kid who's explosive, really been getting leaned on hard by Ohio State to cancel his visit this coming weekend, which I think is to Mississippi State, and go to Ohio State. But it doesn't sound like he's going to do that. So, again, if you can get that one to the finish line, I would say decision for him end of June, 1st of July. You're looking at a decision for TJ White. And Tennessee exits the weekend with all the momentum.
Another big question from this weekend, and you kind of wrote it in your headline over on the front page yesterday, Zion Gibson. I mean, how locked in is he with Alabama? Said that he was locked in when he spoke to you guys. But again, what's that really mean? He was here on Tennessee's campus, knows he's a priority, gave rave reviews about the coaching staff, the players, the system, and all that. He's been committed to Alabama for a couple of months now. But how locked in is he? What was your gut feel leaving the weekend?
Well, you expect him to say that. It's kind of like Carson Snead, right? I mean, he's been committed so long, like you don't expect him to come out and go, they got no shot. No, that he's visiting Alabama this coming weekend. They'll get the last shot to leave, a lasting impression. And so he was very coy, and so I don't have as good a read on him. I don't think Tennessee's out of it. I don't think that Tennessee's the team to beat necessarily. But I do think that they did enough to, Alabama will have to do something next weekend, right? Like they're not going to just be able to roll it out and him go through the motions and it ends up at Alabama. I think they'll have to impress Gibson to hold on to him, but they certainly can.
Yeah, I mean, listening to him talk, I mean, I wouldn't say that he's, impending, you're ready to flip, but he didn't sound like he was married to the Crimson Tide just in his interview. And again, AP, you're right. I mean, what do you expect him to say? But yeah, coy was a good word choice, AP. I thought he sounded like he might be open to some drama.
They're all open to drama, at least.
JJ Finch going to go to Miami next weekend, but then a decision is coming quickly after that.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Yeah, it's Sunday. So where does Tennessee feel like they are with him, again, heading into this final official visit at Miami this past weekend?
Did as well as they could this weekend. And so they exit the weekend feeling really good about, what they've done and the recruitment of JJ Finch. Is it enough? Time will tell. Again, he's going to announce this coming Sunday. He's going to take a visit to Miami. He's also down there for like some kind of camp as well, and then announce on Sunday. So will be interesting to kind of see how all that goes. Miami will have a say. Alabama also in the mix. Probably Tennessee, Alabama at the top two before the Miami visit. So again, Miami is going to have to, do what they do to try to get in the mix here, and we'll see how things shake out. But I think Tennessee exits the weekend, I think, as the team to beat slightly for JJ Finch. Again, I'm going to have to hold on, keep the momentum between now and Sunday. But it felt like he left the weekend really impressed by everything he heard from Rodney Garner.
And physically, that guy's a dude.
Yeah, he had his sunglasses on. I mean, yes. I mean, he was impressive looking. I'll tell you who else was impressive looking was JB Shabazz. JB went from JJ Finch to JB Shabazz, the offensive lineman for Auburn, North Carolina. He's visiting Ohio State this coming weekend. Openly said Tennessee would have been in the top five, but probably not the top three before this past weekend. All of that got turned on its head this weekend because Tennessee knocked it out of the park with the tackle from North Carolina. And it will be interesting to see what he does. I mean, he's another good-looking player that was in town, well put together, smart kid. Still a big kid, though, man. He had to go out there and run around the sprinklers in World's Fair Park on Sunday morning. He was stoked, so he and his family had a really good time. And so be interested to see like how much Ohio State pushes for him, kind of where things stand. But I think Tennessee's left this weekend in play. I would definitely not call them the leader, but I think that they're a viable option, which I'm not sure they were before this past weekend, according to him anyway.
Let's say on the offensive line, an intriguing prospect, one from out west in Idaho, had the early flight Sunday morning. Jax Tanner. Sounds like he was blown away on his official visit here with Tennessee, and one of those guys that's got the size, and you can just look at him, and he's already built physically, but one of those more underrated type guy in terms of the star rankings and all that. But how did Tennessee do with Jax Tanner? Kind of where's Tennessee at with that one? And his overall recruitment, I mean, he's believed to go on a mission as soon as his high school career is over. How long would that be? What would that look like for whoever he signs with?
Yeah, I mean, his brother plays for BYU. That's a pretty common practice, Rob. We've had a few of them over the years with JT Mapu and those players that went on 2-year Mormon missions. Oregon also heavily in play. Tennessee did a nice job with him, but for me, it's hard to imagine Jax ending up here. And if he does, I mean, he's not going to help you for two full years because of that Mormon mission.
Couple of local prospects were here this past weekend. Let's start on the offensive side of the football first. Plays for Maryville now, was at Knox West and Brody Smith, a guy that Tennessee's kept tabs on, a good-looking prospect. Obviously, we know who his father is. How did Tennessee fare with Brody Smith this weekend on the offensive line? And AP, how many does Tennessee even want to take on the offensive line in this class?
Yeah, the kid's grown up a lot from when he was at Bearden to now when he's at Maryville.
Right? Oh, what did I say? West? I'm at Bearden. Sorry.
I was just trying to correct it. You didn't have to take the blame out.
Well, it's fine. I mean, we get West and Bearden about 4 times on Robbery Thursday every year. So
I understand. I say names wrong all the time.
Yeah.
But for Brody, he's really filled into his body. I mean, kind of like JP Peace a year ago or even a year and a half ago, both of those kids were kind of big, but kind of like awkward looking because they hadn't really filled out yet. Brody Smith, it looks like his dad. And Lee, was a big boy coming out of Powell, was big all the way through his NFL days as a tight end, continues to be big, and Brody is going to follow right in line with him. I mean, he is really impressive looking. I think his best football is ahead of him, and I think that's a really good thing. I think he's still just scratching the surface of what he can be. I think the move to Maryville has helped Brody Smith, and he's going to take these 2 visits this week. He's at North Carolina and NC State, and then he'll start working towards a decision after that. But Tennessee did a nice job with Brody Smith this weekend, and we'll see kind of how things shake out after he takes these next 2 visits.
Yeah, Rob, not to say that he's not a Power 4 take or a Tennessee take or anything like that, but like with the rosters expanding, from 85 to 105, guys in this area code, right? I mean, that gives more opportunities, and that's something you like to see. I mean, Brody Smith's going to be a player, especially, with AP kind of outlining that his best football is way in front of him, and, we know his makeup, we know where he comes from and all that, but I think the scholarship increase in football is only going to help guys like, him in this area, and then, of course, the guy we're about to talk about here in a moment, Iverson Garcia, be able to latch on with bigger schools, specifically some of those hometown schools like Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, like AP said, I think Brody would be a take regardless. But I mean, to your point, EC, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I mean, maybe guys that you're on the fence about, maybe in the past, yeah, you pulled the trigger on him. But man, AP, you're right. I mean, Smith is just, I mean, I mean, you can see it coming always, but just with his frame and whatnot, just because and his father and his genes, but what you thought you saw coming has happened. I mean, the kid is, and still got another spurt to go, but he is starting to look the part, or at least he looks the part of like so many guys that you've seen over the years who eventually were 6'6", 315-pound monsters.
And his father's raised him right. He's taken him to Hump Hammers, which is a little dive burger joint in Powell, Lee being a diehard Powell guy. So You Volquesters that have never been to Humphammers, go check them out. Again, it's a little hole-in-the-wall burger place, but it's fantastic.
Speaking of Powell, let's go to Iverson Garcia.
Yeah, I led you right into that. You see how I transitioned us? I led you right down.
You're a pro.
What a segue.
It sounds like, I mean, Powell just churns out defensive linemen year after year, right? And the next up is Iverson Garcia, a really, really talented guy that we've seen play, obviously. It sounds like he and Rodney Gardner hit it off this weekend, watching tape, watching Tennessee's tape, watching his tape, seeing how they could, help one another, what his fit in the defense could be. Where's Tennessee at with Iverson Garcia, knowing South Florida and I think Memphis are the other two big ones in his recruitment?
Yeah, Ivo's, I'll be stunned if he doesn't pick Tennessee. Rodney Garner has made this one very, very important to him. He loves everything about this kid, and he's really a twitchy defensive lineman at over 300 pounds. I mean, did some things at the A65 Live event, like doing a backflip and doing those type of things at his size that really kind of got their attention. But Rodney spent 2 hours over there in the spring watching him go through practice. Those coaches, unless they're just hanging out, don't spend 2 hours. But Rodney literally followed that kid from station to station and was in all the important things at practice, filming him, getting all those important things done, and just loves everything about this kid. So this one's very important to Rodney.
I know guys like Garcia and, power four prospects and everything, they don't lack for confidence or anything, and that's a good thing. But I mean, could you imagine the pressure, Rob, of going from station to station, drill to drill, and Rodney Gardner just kind of trailing you behind, just watching every move you make? I mean, that's some high stakes right there.
It's like playing golf with AP. No, same kind of pressure. But listen to AP's point. I mean, listen to Iverson talk about Coach Gardner. It's pretty clear that the relationship, the respect has already been developed. I mean, the kid has been taken with the veteran coach, in my opinion.
Tennessee got a commit kind of to kick off the weekend. It was Saturday morning in-state prospect safety Luke Thompson, and feels like that was just a matter of when, Austin, not a matter of if. It was just a matter of it was going to happen last week, this week, a week from now. He went ahead and pulled the trigger on Saturday morning, and he's going to follow in line with he's a legacy, of course. Family members went to Tennessee and all that, not just football as well, track and field, and he went ahead and committed to Tennessee.
Yeah, he visited last weekend, the second weekend, the first weekend for Tennessee, and a kid that can run. And that's what he brings to the table as a kid with some speed. And 10, 5, 100 meters, they want to continue to see him grow as far as like just on the football field. But, he has the right mentality, super impressive family. And again, they love the orange. And for Luke, he just got to continue to hone his craft between the white lines, because athletically, he can do a lot of things that are really special. He just has to continue to grow as a football player. That's why this fall will be big for him to continue to grow. Again, you called it a legacy. Then on Monday around noon, I don't know if it gets much more legacy than the grandson of Philip Fulmer and the son of Robert Peace, JP Peace, picking Tennessee in what was a nice kind of kickoff to the 2027 class. And with JP right around the corner, I think he'll be able to come over and help recruit, much like Cooper and Kay did, and a lot of those in-town players have over the years. Be readily available to come over and host guys. And he's really close with Cooper Witten, Kenny Simon. That one is a nice get to kind of kick off that 2027 class in JPPs.
Yeah, another one of those guys we've gotten to watch, play, several times in this area. Peace. Skill set wise into the defense, translation fit, what does he bring to this class, and why is this such a big get, obviously outside of the family ties?
Well, much like Brody Smith, a kid that has really grown into his body, has continued to put on weight, and has now transitioned from outside backer at West to inside backer at West. I mean, physically, he looks the part. And a year ago, he just kind of was that kind of like, rangy, like, kind of like hasn't really filled out type kid. This year, totally different looking kid. And again, for JP, good thing is he looks like his mama, not his daddy. And, that Tennessee's got a kid that I think, again, much like Brody Smith, has his best football ahead of him. I think he's just scratching the surface physically of what he can be.
I think Max agrees as well. Max back there saying, yeah, JPPs. Yeah, I agree.
Or more likely, an Amazon driver has dropped off another package that my wife had delivered, and he's barking at them.
Yeah, that is more likely. I think we've gone over pretty much everybody that was in town. One that I know I missed, C.J. Edwards, current Tennessee commit in this class of 26, that Leo spot. His profile has him at 215. Where is he at? I don't know if you ask him this, but where's he at weight-wise, and kind of how is he growing into his body? Obviously, Tennessee likes him a lot there on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, probably 220-ish, but has the best hair in the recruiting class. I mean,
yeah, that's important.
Big curly locks for that guy. Look at him. It mostly looks like a wig at this point. It's fantastic. Wish I had it. I have no hair left, especially up here. It's all gone. Or as my wife likes to say, it's in the shower because it goes down the drain every day. A kid that Tennessee got in on early and has done a really nice job with. Physically looks the part. They are really high on C.J. Edwards. They like C.J. Edwards a lot. And so getting him down here and letting him see it for a second time. His first visit was back for the spring game. Now he's in for his official visit this past weekend. Tennessee's done a nice job there. It was a really successful weekend. A successful weekend on all fronts, EC, especially in recruiting, but also a successful weekend for myself and Preston Hawkins, or otherwise known as Holston Hillsville, on Volquest, as we took home the Pinehurst flight at the Holston Hills member guest, or as they call it, the Don Ross Invitational. And so carried me around there. He was making putts left and right. We had our lab putters working. It was a really good weekend for Team Price Hawkins, as we finished one shot out of the shootout of being able to make it, into another playoff after a 3-hole aggregate shootout. So, but I just wanted to transition that way into baseball. Because you need to be the one hosting, or I need to be the one hosting baseball for you.
You should have put the trophy on the top of the couch there above your right shoulder, and just had it just sitting there the entire time. That would have been funny.
Yeah, like a spotlight on it.
Yeah,
with like a little turntable where it just goes round and round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. Eric, Tennessee's baseball team continues to bring in players, try to reload this roster, and the latest being a catcher that's had a lot of success.
Yeah, and he's not just a catcher as well. I mean, he played in 36 games as a catcher. He's been a first-team All-MAC, at the catcher position his first 2 years. So he is a catcher, but he's a guy that also played 22 games in the outfield last year. He played, 13 games in left and, 5 or 6 in right and a couple games in center. So Tennessee, they love his defensive versatility. They view him as a true utility, as an athlete, and a guy that can certainly catch, and if he fills out the best lineup behind the plate, then that's where he'll be. But a guy that they feel like they can plug in anywhere else, and they love his bat as well. I mean, this is a guy that hit above 400, led the MAC in slugging percentage. Here's an interesting stat: he holds the Bowling Green program record not only for doubles, which is good, but for being hit by 49 pitches in 2 years. Can we say crowds the plate? That's what it sounds like on paper. Getting hit 49 times in 2 years. But as a sophomore, he reached base safely, not like Andrew Fisher in all 67 games or whatever it was, but in 52 or 54 games this year, which is always really, really impressive. So, 8 home runs, 48 ribbies this past year. He totaled 134 bases. He holds numerous program records, but he's a really good offensive player, but his defense is kind of what jumps off the page for me. Catcher, but can also play the outfield, and Tennessee really, really likes that. So he is the 5th commit for the transfer portal at the time of this recording. Tennessee has 4 players already and right-handed pitchers, and Tennessee's continuing to be in on some other guys, and we'll see kind of what some moves they make this week. But no doubt, I mean, Tony's attacking that portal, his staff's attacking that portal, and they're trying to take advantage. They want to be in Omaha. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to be in Omaha, but trying to take advantage of the time where they're not and attacking the portal.
Well, you have to be. You have the moment that you get eliminated, you can't sit back idly by. And realistically, you got to be working on it when you're still playing.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you wait till you're eliminated, you're behind.
But you really got to hit the accelerator, Rob, once you're eliminated. Like it has to be like, it's kind of like this weekend for recruiting. It's all hands on deck. It's all hands on everything.
And EC, I think the calendar and the way Tony's wired is. I mean, they're 20-something years apart in age, but I think him and Coach Barnes, I think the way that the calendar works is different than football, because as soon as, basketball or baseball is over, bam, you're in the portal. As football, you don't have the bowl game or playoffs that you're still messing with. And I think Tony's wired the same way. Like whatever is wrong with his team has probably been picking at his brain for 3 months, and he can go fix it immediately, or at least think he address it immediately. And I think Coach Barnes attacks the portal that way. He's lost that last game, and I'm going to go get what I need right now to win that game. And Coach Vitello seems like he hits the portal, going 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, he's so aggressive. I mean, last year, think about it, the quantity wasn't there, but the quality, oh my goodness. I mean, you only brought, I guess you had 5 portal commits, and one was, went to the draft, kind of like last year, or kind of like 2 years ago with Ryan Galaney as well. But you brought in Fisher, Doyle, Keelan. I mean, those 3 alone, holy crap. And then Tanner Franklin, who's going to be drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round coming up this summer. A guy who can, pump 102, 103 miles an hour. It's Jeff County. That's how we do it down there. But nonetheless,
that's how fast you drive through Newmarket, maybe.
I drove through Newmarket yesterday. The quality's fantastic, and he loves. I mean, at the basis, Tony's a guy that loves recruiting, and Josh Elander's a guy that absolutely loves recruiting, and Ross Kivett loves to get after recruiting, and they're really good coaches. Obviously, Tony's a fantastic coach, but where he started was on the recruiting trail, and I think he enjoys that process. Kind of like Rick Barnes, up against the clock, trying to assimilate a roster quickly. I think he's learned to love that. I think Tony's always loved that, and the proof's kind of been in the pudding this last little bit in some of these really nice portal classes. So, I mean, Tennessee, hosted 4 players last week. We'll see what this week brings. And here's something to remember as well. I mean, everything's kind of changing, in this landscape. It's agents, going to reporters to get stuff out, and it's okay. Well, once that's out, it's Tennessee has interest in this kid. Oh well, LSU or Arkansas or whoever. It's like, oh, okay, now we got to go out there and try to get this. I mean, it's like that in football and basketball too, right? It's just trying to be, in some cases, a bidding war, right? And so, I think they're guarded in some respects on what they're trying to get out there and have on campus. But Tennessee's certainly going to be probably bringing in more guys this week. The Aiden Robbins kid from Seton Hall was here last week. He is a real interesting prospect. Talk about a nice leadoff guy, top your order, a guy that can play the outfield, another guy that hit over 400 on the year. The California infielder, the Cal infielder, they felt great about that visit too. Landon Mack, the pitcher from Rutgers, I mean, everybody's going to be on him. I mean, this is a guy that's going to go try out for the college national team. I mean, he had a stellar freshman campaign pitching in Power 4 baseball. I think Tennessee liked where that one was as well, but also knows that one can drag on a little bit. So Tennessee's not going for guys who nobody else wants. Tennessee's going for some who they think are the best of the best, and we'll see who else they get. But it's already starting to come together like a really nice class, albeit just one position player so far.
They obviously got the catcher, and everybody talked about the need for catcher. Like, what's the one position they have got to address that's a position, that's going to fill the ball, not pitcher?
I think they need an infielder, but the number one position that they have to address, and they've already addressed it to an extent, like with the bullpen, but I'm talking starter. They got to go get a starter. And so, the only starter that we know of right now that Tennessee's been after is Landon Mack from Rutgers, who I just mentioned. I don't know what the backup plan is or whatever, and there'll be new names kind of emerging, just like in football and basketball cycles, but Tennessee absolutely needs a starter. Internal options. Again, things can change by the minute, right? I mean, that's just how it is, especially with baseball, with this house settlement, the roster shrinking and all that. But I mean, right now, you got Coons, Krenzel can start for you. Anson Siebert's a guy that did not play this year that they love. Those are 3 internal options, in my opinion, in terms of starting, but you want more. And so I think Tennessee's got to address, a starting pitcher. Are they going to go out and find an elite guy that's going to win National Pitcher of the Year, be a Golden Spikes Award finalist and all that? I don't know. I mean, Tennessee hit a grand slam with Liam Doyle last year and the work that he put in with this staff and, the strength and conditioning staff and all that as well. But I think starter, and then I think Tennessee needs an infielder. And it sounds crazy because Tennessee's got a lot of infielders, right now on the roster and all that. But let's see who's still on the roster. Again, rosters are shrinking. I think Tennessee needs an infielder as well.
It never stops. It will continue to go. Tony Vitello will not sleep. He's like a vampire until the roster is complete and they have all they need.
Let me ask you guys this something real quick. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but just to kind of end the show here. Joel Klatt had some type of head coaching pressure index or whatever. I saw a couple threads on it. I wanted to get y'all's input on it. He pretty much says with the exit of Nico Iamaleava, Tennessee fans are going to start putting pressure on Josh Heupel. It's like, okay, well, everybody kind of was like, okay, we stand with you. That's great. But now we don't have a quarterback. You know, what are you doing? He pretty much wrote that Josh Heupel is going to have some pressure on him this year. I think every coach kind of coaches with pressure, but what do you make of all that? It's not necessarily a mulligan. I'm not saying this is a mulligan season whatsoever, but I mean, if Tennessee goes 8-4, I mean, nobody's calling for Josh Heupel's head, nor should they. Job security is never in question or anything, but what do you make of with Nico leaving this late in the cycle? The pressure should still be on Josh Heupel to, say you drop a game you shouldn't. Oh, it's end all be all.
I think everybody wants off-season fodder.
I was going to say it's like a Sydney Sweeney Instagram post. It's summer clickbait.
Yes, correct, and a lot better than not nearly as good as the Sydney Sweeney Instagram post overall. Joel Klatt. Let's not compare the two. But I know where you're going with it, though. But, yeah, I mean, listen, the way it all went out, the stories written by Chris Lowe and others about the exit, I just don't – I mean, like, I think that's wrong. We like you, but – I mean, come on. Like, that's – that to put him on the same line as a guy who went 2-10 a year ago after being projected as a top 10 team and Billy Napier's a joke. So Joe Klatt is, wrong for that.
It's clickbait.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, like I would have Kalen DeBoer on that line before I would have Josh Heupel, and I don't even think I'd have Kalen DeBoer on that line.
Or Venables, and I'm with you. I wouldn't put either one of them up there. But
yeah, I mean, Venables is 2 rungs down. I mean, Oklahoma sucked. I mean, like. That's like don't get me wrong, they could be way better this year. They got the OC change and Mateer, and we'll see.
Or Lincoln Riley, even.
Yeah, again, Lincoln Riley done nothing. The only reason he's 2 rungs down from Heupel is because he had a couple of Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks that he's done nothing with from a team perspective. So, I mean, like again, that's preposterous. Trust me, the fans, because of the way it all went down.
And to be on that line with those 2 dudes after you went to the playoff, and you didn't go because of Nico, you went in spite of him. Really.
Yes.
And again, like you shouldn't just be, as the top line says, just happy to be here. Like that shouldn't just be the standard and all that and everything. But I mean, think about the 4 year. Like you should always be wanting more, is what I'm saying. But in 4 years of Josh Heupel, 2 double-digit win seasons, a college football playoff berth, an Orange Bowl victory, a Citrus Bowl victory. Rushing for over 2,500 yards, should have had a Heisman finalist. I mean, we can go on and on and on, right? I mean,
and it's not just that; it's where it was when he got here.
Yeah, and the accelerated path that he got Tennessee back to where it is. So, you should never just be happy with what you're doing. You should always aspire for more, obviously. But I'm with you. We like you, but are you kidding me? But what? Like, it makes no sense.
I agree that with that. Now I'll say this: having looked at all the different things while you guys were talking, I don't think that there's a run here. So I want to go back and say that, like, this is just kind of like we like you, but trying to be patient because, like, at the bottom, it's time. It's time.
Yeah, like they need to win now.
It's time to win for both those guys. But let's face it. I mean, if James Franklin just goes back to the playoff again and gets eliminated, he'll be back at Penn State. Brian Kelly, if he doesn't make it to the playoff, he may not be back at LSU.
Yeah, be interesting for sure. But I think going back to what you guys said originally, just the offseason, chatter and all that, just always looking for something to talk mid-March. I heard that, and again, I don't know if it's a podcast or I read some quotes. I don't. Maybe I'm taking it out of context, but I'm just like,
I do think that Josh Heupel will put a ton of pressure on himself to win this year because let's face it, if he goes out and goes 10-2 with Merklinger or Joey Aguilar and makes it back to the CFP, who looks like a genius? Because we know that UCLA is not going to the CFP. So if Tennessee somehow goes out and wins and Josh Heupel is leading the charge, that's a huge feather in his cap. And, for a guy who did not get a contract extension or a raise this past offseason after going to the CFP, that means that Daniel will be getting a call for the agent really quick.
And not to mention, too, you just want the explosives back. The stuff we talk about all the time. You want the explosives back in the offense. You want the red zone efficiency to be better.
They just didn't connect on any of them. Go back to the Alabama game.
And the Florida game.
I mean, how many times did they overthrow somebody wide open down the field?
Yeah, or the Florida game where your guy just kept dropping it, or ran the wrong route or whatever.
Langer, George, whoever is the quarterback, if they can just complete deep balls on a routine basis, all of a sudden that changes the whole look of the offense.
Yeah, it certainly does. A lot going on right now. Go ahead. You had something to say?
No.
No? Okay, sorry. I just talk. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking over you because I do it all the time. A lot going on right now over at Volquest.com. Plenty of recruiting tidbits from this past weekend. Another big weekend coming up for June official visits, all that and more. Transfer portal for Tennessee baseball. Basketball media availability coming up later today. There's so much going on. No better place to stay up to date with all of it than right here at Volquest.com and on the General's Quarters. $1 for your first week. Come check us out here at Volquest.com. $1 for the first week. Check us out. And be sure to like and subscribe this video as well if you're watching on YouTube so we can get it in front of more and more Tennessee fans. I appreciate you guys for being here. We got the Mailbag Podcast going up on Thursday, so go ahead and send in your questions on the General's Quarters. For Austin Price, Rob Lewis, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Volquest Podcast.